met you a couple of weeks ago, as I was saying, at the Chamber event, and I was so intrigued by what you do. You told me you were a mobile, maybe that's not the right word, but you actually travel around and help people with PT. So what is it that you do, Kiley?
Well, I am a physical therapist. That means that I got a doctorate in physical therapy and I can treat patients, just any random patient off the street. I don't need a doctor note to treat somebody, so
Right.
I can get to somebody immediately. So if somebody has pain that started in their neck in the morning, I could stop by their office at lunch and see if we can fix it before it becomes a bigger issue. And just an idea as far as my training goes, I am board certified in orthopedics and in sports and a manual therapy
Where'd you
fellow.
go to school?
I went to Loma Linda University.
Okay, where is that?
Ever heard of that? It's in Southern California.
Of course.
Of course. I actually, outside of living in Italy for a couple of months when I was in college, I was born and raised Californian, so
Love it.
grad school California, all of my education in California. But I went to school at Loma Linda University. Believe it or not, the entire campus is vegetarian.
Wow.
And they don't drink coffee there.
Oh my God, I got you on the wrong show.
It's different, but it was actually a very amazing school. They had a very good emphasis on treating the patient as a whole, which I loved. So they talked about how the importance of diet in healing, as well as the importance of the person.
But
as a
isn't
whole.
it amazing that, and I have a few examples of this, and I may even be one of them, but certainly my grandfather lived to 95, smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day, drank a lot of alcohol, and ate whatever he wanted. He was rarely sick. Why is that? Is that because he had his mother's milk until he was 6 years old?
That's
true.
That's probably true. And he probably went vegan every once in a while too, just to be safe.
And he has amazing genes, right?
Yeah,
And that's just
genetics
reality,
plays
right?
a big role. I know. I'm jealous. My
Right.
family none of my family has lived to that old, but I think that's awesome. And you hear stories like that. There was a guy who was the oldest guy living a couple of years ago. Was quoted as saying, "I made sure I drank whiskey every single day,
I heard that.
and that's how I got to be this old." I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
So yeah.
Maybe I'm doing things wrong.
Yeah, well, so
Yeah.
what he was saying is he enjoyed life, and it was probably
Yeah.
more of his attitude than
I
anything
agree.
else. I know with my grandfather, it was his reverence for music that kept him going every day.
That makes
So
sense.
it gets a little clouded as to that, and I do think mental follows physical. I don't want to get too
I
deep
think you're
into
right.
that, but I do want to concentrate on what you actually do for.
Yeah.
They're called not clients. They're called what? Patients, right?
Patients, I like the word client more.
I was thinking, yeah.
Only-
First, they're probably a client before they're a patient, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I like the word client because when I'm treating a patient, I go to them. So I have all of my focus on a client. So the entire time I'm with the client, it's just me and them, having a conversation, figuring out what's wrong with them, focusing on them for that full hour. I don't get distracted by the patient sitting next to them.
Right.
It's just me and them.
One-on-one.
And to me, that the word client comes to mind more than patient. And then that client has the opportunity to call my cell phone, get a hold of me within minutes if they do need something, unless
That's
of course
awesome.
it's another client.
Yeah.
But the word client makes more sense, I
Okay.
think, in that way.
So you also, when I heard that you go to the patient, I often wondered why this world is not more about that, because you see
Yeah.
the old movies where the doctor always went to the patient.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's
too.
really important, especially in a world where things are complicated.
Yeah.
To get to offices, insurance, paperwork, this, that, and the other thing, it just feels better, doesn't it?
It does. The more times I have a conversation with other friends of mine that are in the same profession as me, their complaint is, I get to see the patient for 30 minutes. They say one little thing, and I don't have the time to investigate what they meant by that. And it could be the one thing that gets them better, and we don't have the time to talk to the patient about that. Or when the patient comes to you, you don't know what that patient's workstation looks like at home, or what exactly it is that's causing the problem. You don't get a chance to look at their tennis
you
shoes
can see that
that's
there's a
causing their
cat
running
climbing
issue.
on them 24/7 or
Yeah.
something.
you can get a better full picture
Yeah.
of the whole person.
Yeah.
Which has been really cool. And that patient or client, I feel like has a easier time connecting with you because you're with them, and you go by Kiley and not Dr. Holmes,
Right.
which is a little bit
Very cool.
more personable.
So let's fill the gap between, here we are in Port Jeff Village. You live here, you made a life here, you
Yeah.
live in the village, you live in walking distance to where we are right now, which
Yes,
is
I do.
phenomenal. So from California, schooling, how do you get here to Port Jeff Village?
So it's a very long journey. My husband was military, so we have lived in Washington State, we have lived in Florida, we have lived in Maryland, and now my husband is actually at the university, Stony Brook, doing a residency in oromaxillofacial radiology.
There
which
we
is
go,
a
another
very large
example of
mouthful.
our large assets here.
Yeah.
You know, helping people and helping further careers. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's a typical day for you in servicing client patients?
So right
Can someone
now,
get you from an app and go, hey, I need some help?
Yeah, they can
know.
actually. If you're on my website, there's a little chat feature. So
And here's your website here, and I
Yeah.
just, is that you?
no, I wish that was
Why
me.
don't you just tell people that's you?
Yeah, maybe I should just start saying that.
Why don't you actually
I
just
can do that.
superimpose
That's
Where is that? Do we
position.
even know?
I'm not sure. It looks like I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it's in the U.S. But
Well, it's gorgeous and
It is.
and evokes, but this is you.
that is me. That's
This is you.
definitely me. Yes.
Great picture. And so tell us about this website, which looks very cool.
Thank you. I wanted some way for patients to be able to find me. I've started a blog on there. I actually partnered with Port Jefferson Pilates Studio and an Alexander Technique person, and we actually put together a video of how we all would work on low back pain and how we'd all work on hip pain together. And it was just a really cool experience. And that video is actually on my blog. And then I try and write. I just finished one more blog last night. It should be going up probably today or tomorrow. But I try and write about how somebody can manage
Actual stuff.
something on their own or get an idea of what's going on with them.
So the parts of the body that you're working with are literally anything joint related, right?
Yes.
The
yes,
movement of the body.
exactly.
That's your
That's me.
focus.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that could be neck, knee, hip,
Yeah.
foot.
Foot, toes, fingers, elbows.
And how do you actually promote what you do? Is it word of mouth? Is it a little bit of social
So
media?
far-
You've joined the chamber.
Yeah.
And so far it's been a great word of mouth.
Yeah, so far completely word of mouth. I started an Instagram, put a website together, but really the best thing I've had so far has been word of mouth. I think that Port Jefferson is just a really cool community. Everybody knows each other. I mean, I was at the Port Jeff Chamber of Commerce meeting, the first one I was at, and I was talking to one person and another person came up. They didn't know each other, but they knew their husbands had gone to high school together.
Right.
And she knew the other one's husband
So
from high
within
school.
15 seconds there
yeah,
was a connection.
there was a connection, and I feel like that is constant
Yeah,
here.
it is.
So I think in this type of community, word of mouth is really important because, I mean, a negative word of mouth
Both
would be
ways.
really bad. But yeah, exactly. But and I feel like as long as I do a good job, and that is something that I was trained to do, so that's good.
Yeah.
As long as I do a good job, I can continue to get that good word of mouth.
Can you give me an idea of what success looks like for you?
And in all of the paperwork that you're learning how to become a specialist, they emphasize if you're a specialist, you're going to get almost all of the information you need by talking to the patient.
Not only that, they recently discovered the number one human need besides, like, obviously food, water, and shelter is being listened to.
Yeah,
It's
true.
huge.
Yeah,
And people are in situations where they're having an issue and people are not listening anymore.
it's hard to.
So you become very
Yeah.
valuable just in that alone. What are you seeing in terms of the number one issue in people that need PT and why? Are you seeing people like hunched over because they're looking at phones? You're going to.
I see a lot of that.
Do you?
See a lot of that.
Oh, you're
yeah.
gonna see that, yeah.
It depends on the age group. I mean, right now, for some reason, I am seeing a lot of neck pain, but I think that probably the reason why I'm seeing more neck pain is because neck pain is one of those diagnoses where people stop listening after a while, and it's kind of been thrown aside. Oh, she's just stressed out,
Right.
you know, and that can be really hard. And it's probably from texting,
Right.
partially at least, for
So
some of them. But
we talk about like maybe the 50-year-old and up. What's the number one you see? Is it hip? Is it back? It's probably back, right? The number one place.
It's back, but I should point out that back pain is like almost always due to the hips.
Oh.
So
And not proper alignment and or walking or shoes or this, that, and the other thing?
So most people who are in their 50s at this point, especially in this area, because they'll be driving into the city to work or towards the city to
Yes.
work. So they've been sitting in a car for at least
Yes.
an hour every day,
Right.
each way sometimes.
With stress compacted
With
on that.
stress compacted, sitting for their jobs. So what you'll tend to see is like the front of the hips have gotten really, really tight. And the muscles in the front of your hips actually come from the front of your back. So
This is
when you try
unbelievable.
and stand up and those hips muscles are tight, it's like a rubber band. So it pulls on your back, so it pulls you forward, so you can't even stand up straight. And that causes a lot of the low back pain I see. It makes stenosis worse. I had this patient a couple of years ago, actually when I first moved to Maryland, came in. He was in his, I was like 55, 56, you know, mid 50s. And he was like, I don't know why I'm here. My pain is only when I shower. He's like, showering is painful. I was like,
Maybe the water's too hot.
well, what's the temperature like? Like, why did your doctor send
pretty
you to me?
bizarre.
And, you know, I went back to my residency days and I was like, get a good subjective out of this guy. What is going on? So I talked to him about it for a little bit, and it turns out the only time he stood up without leaning on something was when showering. So his main issue was that the front of his
Support.
hips were really tight, and standing
lack of
up was
support.
like impossible. So we did some stretching to the front of his hips. We worked on a little bit of strengthening.
I
of-
thought you were going to tell me, it was like, look, it's only in the shower. You need to probably, you know, see this. And you were like, okay, next
thankfully, it was a
client.
patient that I saw in a clinic.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Good thought though, right?
I know, right? I see where that's going now. Nope, not
No.
like that. But he, you know, I only saw him like 3 times. But because I had that conversation with him, that
Right.
long conversation in the beginning, it
uncovered
was a
it.
very easy fix.
Yeah.
But it could have been a very long fix if I'd been like, okay, this guy's crazy. Which it could feel like that.
Now that you've been here, how long have you been in Port Chef Village?
Since July.
So are you doing things like also, if something is out of your purvey of profession, do you start to refer now?
I haven't actually had something I've had to refer yet. I've definitely sent patients back to their doctor saying, well, you know, try seeing if there's an NSAID or like something that we could get
Right.
to make this a little bit better. Or I haven't actually had anything I've had to refer yet, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But I think when patients have called me, they've, at this point, usually exhausted other efforts.
Well, even things like if diet needs to be
Yes.
looked at.
Yes.
Do you refer to dietitians particularly?
You know, I don't know a good dietitian in the
Well,
area. If you know
me
a
and you
good
both.
dietitian
No,
in the area,
I'm hearing honestly. The simple answer is there are professional, you know, well-versed dietitians at the ShopRites.
Okay.
So that's one
Oh,
thing
really?
we both could look into because I'm hearing
I'd
good
love
things.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to look at that
Yeah.
very soon. But oftentimes my
That's
point
good.
is that's where it could be a fix as well, right?
Yes, diet is a huge fix. You'll see patients who you'll talk to, pains through the roof today. They're not in a good place. Very obviously,
And then
they
you ask them what
look
they ate yesterday.
swollen. You ask them what they ate. Usually it's Chinese food because it's got that high sodium,
yeah.
especially if it's like Panda Express or something like
Yes.
that, where they've just had like this like really salty food.
Yeah. So
And-
drink 2 gallons of more
Yeah,
water.
just
Call me in
go
the morning,
drink
right?
some water. Let's clear that salt out. But
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot,
Yeah.
I think. I think this is your first of many visits to us.
I hope
I
so.
wanted to
I hope
introduce,
so.
you know, folks to what you do.
Yeah,
I love
thank
the
you.
fact that you're from California. You bring that cool vibe.
I'd like to think so.
You know what I mean? I'm sure you think New Yorkers are pretty cool, except the way they talk.
Oh my goodness. My
You probably have a
husband
million stories about
and
that.
when the movers came into our house, they had this thick accent, and my husband and I were
It's
sitting
like, where are we? What did we do?
it's like in Friends.
Yeah.
Because
classic.
we'd never heard
Yeah,
it
they'll
before.
grow on you, though.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. It's
Cool.
we're just like, wow, it really exists. It was
Very
terrible.
good. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
We'll be following you, and if you
Love it.
need
Thank
help
you.
from Coffee Talk, you let us know.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
Thanks for
Nice
your
to see you
time.
again.
Thanks for
you.
your time.
Yeah, thank you.